Nation's #1 DJ, DJ Rockwell.
Yo, this is Apocalypse, the lyrical warner, hip-hop revelator. And you rockin' with the nation's #1 DJ, DJ Rockwell, you understand me?
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's the weekend and you're here with your brother, DJ Rockwell, the nation's #1 DJ. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in the room because as usual, we got a fantastic show lined up for you. Big Dave.
Sir.
Are you ready, man?
I don't think I am, honestly.
Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, we are preparing ourselves for the Symphony Part 2. Once you come in the room, make yourself comfortable. Let us know where you're watching from, what city you're checking in from, where you're at. If you're watching from another country, let us know what country you're watching from. You're tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show. My name is DJ Rockwell. We're here every weekend. We want to extend a special welcome to all of those who are watching and tuned in from the Closing the Gap Broadcast Network. Welcome to the Rockwell Radio Show. Thank you for being a part of our family because we are honored to be a part of yours. I tell you what, man, we've been doing this 3 years, man. Why am I nervous though?
Because you love it.
You know what I'm saying? Let's make sure that everybody go ahead and follows the 3 rules of the Rockwell Radio Show, which are
coming up.
Go ahead and like and share the broadcast. Tag someone, let them know that we're here. And if you're watching again on Closing the Gap, if you're watching on the Rockwell Radio Show platform on YouTube, subscribe, and enjoy the show. Baltimore is in the building. Who else is in the building? Keep logging in, keep checking in. I see Baltimore is here big right now. Okay. We on from Bob City. Come on now, let's rock Bob City. Oh, we've got a program for y'all tonight. If you watched us a few weeks ago, you saw the first episode of the Symphony. We were honored to have my brother, Student Minister Demetric, Student Minister Abdul Haq, Student Minister Troy, and of course, our brother, Student Minister Willie Muhammad. What a conversation that we had. You can find a link to that conversation if you missed it in the description of this video today. My brother in the building from what month was that day? Go back to that real quick. MM35, salute to you. Welcome. Keep checking in. Let us know where you're watching from. And let me say, man, we are still.
We're not gonna make it.
It's gonna be a rough night, Dave. We are still celebrating the 50th anniversary of this culture called hip hop. And that is why we are doing what is known as the Symphony. And just to give you all a bit of background, if you're new to the Rockwell Radio Show, if you've never watched it before, what the Rockwell Radio Show essentially is 2 brothers, actually blood brothers if you didn't know, that we grew up in the golden age of hip hop. From the late 80s and the early 90s. But what makes this show unique is we also accepted the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad together. So we decided that why not bring with us into this mission the culture that we love and come up with something that we can use it as a tool and a vehicle to go and fish our people into a word that's going to save their life. Having said that, Dave, why did we name this particular episode series the Symphony? The Symphony, for those who are hip hop heads know, It was a classic 1988 posse cut. Well, what's a posse? I just dated myself when I said posse. That's a group of individuals, most likely black men. Today, I brought a posse with me, if you will. No, not Cool G Rap. No, not Big Daddy Kane. No, not Master Ace. We brought some brothers who are here to help us guide hip hop back to a right course. Well, somebody say, well, hold on, let me stop the music. Why would you bring ministers and preachers? Why not bring DJs and rappers and breakdancers? Here's why. We are in a dark and ever darkening hour. My expectation is that my guests aren't hip hop scholars, hip hop aficionados. My guests tonight that you came to hear us talk to in this panel discussion are teachers of the word. They are lovers of their people. And they are going to bring tonight. My job is to extract from them the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and experiences and lessons from our teacher, of whom we are all students, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, to help us guide this culture back, possibly onto a right course. So having said that, can we start expressing, getting our guests on day?
I think that's a good thing to go ahead and do.
Again, if you are here with us, let us know where you're watching from, because it's about to get rowdy. We're about to jump into it with the Symphony Part 2. I tell you what, my first guest I've had the honor of knowing my entire Muslim life. And what I'm going to do, Dave, since two of the guests have been, or I'm going to call them Rockwell Radio Show veterans. I'll bring on the veterans first. I've known this brother my entire Muslim life. When I accepted my own and decided to be myself, when I walked through the doors of Muhammad Mosque number 15 here in Atlanta, he was the first smiling face that I saw. This brother is known and loved throughout our nation, and now he currently serves as a co-host to the hot podcast called Nothing But the Truth.
Give him some walking music. Give him some walking music.
Oh, you know what? We can't do it without that. He currently serves as a weekly host of the Yard Bird Sweets Jazz Show, which can be heard on WPFW. Did I say that right? WPFW 89.3 FM in Washington, D.C. We got to get the music right. Please welcome back to the Rockwell Radio Show, my brother and yours, Student Minister Jamil.
Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. We didn't already started with the antics.
Okay. I had nothing to do with it.
Let's keep it moving. Also returning as a guest to the Rockwell Radio Show for the Symphony Part 2. My brother, when he was here last time, he burned it up. A brother whom I love, who I was surprised to know in kind of a surprise way. This brother was more hip hop than me. He definitely knows the art. He knows the culture. He helps the nation and serves as a liaison to the Spanish-speaking community for the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan. Please welcome my brother and yours, Student Minister Abel Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and those who are tuning in. It's an honor to be back on the Rockwell Radio Show.
Welcome,
sir.
brother. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. You are watching the Rockwell Radio Show, and I tell you what, tag somebody, touch somebody. Again, Dave, tell them real quick what they need to do. Follow the 3 steps, like and share, tag someone, and of course, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. And again, welcome to all of our listeners who are watching and listening to us via the Closing the Gap platform. Thank you. Hashim, what's good? She had a show, y'all. It's about to get hot. Now, let us go all the way to the great city of Baltimore and Mosque number 6. This brother, I have not had the chance to have an extended conversation with him until now. You know him, you love him. He serves our great nation as now an imam and also our student national archivist for the Nation of Islam. Please welcome for the first time to the Rockwell Radio Show, student imam Abdul Salaam Muhammad. We can't hear your mic, my brother.
Got you. Oh, the mic is hot now.
Hey, there you go. Nice hot.
Welcome to everyone, man. Just happy to be here on the Rockwell Radio Show with you, Brother Vaughn, and of course I know D on the side making it happen on the boards, right?
Yes, sir, brother. Welcome.
With my great
we got
colleague.
one more guest.
Come on.
We got one more guest. Now, this guest has a story, a quick story. I'm sorry, Brother Jamil, you want to say something real quick?
No, you
Was
just
that
got one more guess. I'm holding up the one.
This brother, again, new to the Rockwell Radio Show. Special to me, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to stop the music to tell the story. 6 years ago, I gathered all of the rappers of the nation to take a photo in Detroit at Savior's Day. And there was a brother that happened to be standing by and observing what was going on. And he said, no, you're not going to take this picture without me. And if you look there at the center photo, you'll see him right there in the center of the picture. Now, but what made it even more great is when I shared the photo on social media, I was excited and sharing with everyone who had showed up, all of the DJs and the rappers and all the talented people across our nation. And I said, even a minister joined us. And he saw that comment and he said this. He said, say it, brother, what you mean? And even a minister. I'm DJ Mac of the Southwest Party crew. But he said this. I love being around the believers, particularly when they are bringing in a new world through their art. Are you ready for the revolution? Please welcome to the Rockwell Radio Show. He is the student Southwestern Regional Minister of this great nation from Mosque number 45. Please welcome my big brother, student minister Abdul Haleem Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, big brother. Oh, what a time we're about to have. Now, what is this about a date? They having a whole separate conversation right now. Brothers, let's do this. I want to open up the floor just to get an introductory word from each of you that's going to set the tone of anything that you want to share, anything that I may have missed in your introduction before we begin our panel tonight. I'll start with Brother Jamil, go to Brother Abel, to Brother Salaam, and Brother Haleem.
Thank you, Brother Vaughn. Once again, assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm here to learn tonight. The reason why I say and preface any commentary that I might make tonight with the fact that I'm here to learn is because there is so much more that we have to do. I appreciate my inclusion on this panel, but in no way do I intend to speak more than I listen tonight. The reason for that is that we have committed ourselves to offer a word of reform to one of the art forms that is most attractive to our people in general and our youth in particular. Therefore, we must match that art form with the mission of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I see that in a very abbreviated and concise way as the minister's presence among us is to do three things: to save, to heal, and to forgive.
Come on.
And wherever salvation, healing, and forgiveness can be found, they will in fact invigorate whatever form they occur in and bring life to it. Hip hop is in trouble because much of what is passed off on the world as hip hop is really just commercialized sludge.
Listen.
I didn't say sister sledge. I
Difference.
said sludge.
Come on now.
Most of what we hear and call hip hop today has nothing to do with the basic elements of the culture and the art form, nor the reasons why the art form is created in the first place. So for me, I'm here to learn, I'm here to listen, and I thank Allah that we have this opportunity to be with my great brothers. This is a great, great, great team of guests you have tonight, and I'm here also.
Thank you, big brother. Let's keep it moving. Let's hear an introductory word from our brother, Student Minister Abel Muhammad.
Dear brothers, and it's an honor again in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. You know, I bear witness there is no God but Allah. And I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. We already greeted each other, but I got to say it one more time. I have to start by saying just Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you, those who are watching, because this is very personal to me, because when I was first introduced to Islam, one of the critical aspects, believe it or not, for me being able to submerge myself into the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was because I had access to music, which allowed the teachings to be beyond just a book or a building, but it was something that I was, as a teenager, listening to in my headphones, you know, listening to in my room at home as I was working out or going about the city. I had an option to listen to music that was infused with the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that was sharing with me clips and excerpts of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I know how critical that was for me to allow me to not only see Islam as maybe one-dimensional or an aspect of my life, but it allowed me to not only read about it, learn about it, but actually experience it in a way that I had not ever experienced religion as we know it. So to see the condition that many say and are unhappy with when they look at the condition of our hip-hop community today, I'm really anxious to get into this conversation, because I believe that not only can it be saved, but I believe that saving grace is still present in it. We just, like always, have to look a little deeper. So I'm anxious to hear from the brothers as well.
That's Brother Minister Abel, ladies and gentlemen. We now hear a word from our student imam, Brother Abdul. Salaam.
Right. Assalamu alaikum once again to everyone. That just simply means peace be unto you. If you don't know, Bismillah. Dear brothers, I'm just happy to be here for the conversation. And Brother Vaughn, just to let you know, man, look, hey, we the hip-hop babies. We the hip-hop.
Come on now.
I just turned 50, so we know we all hip-hop over here.
That's right. That's right.
Be on the show tonight where I can talk hip-hop and the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, Islam, from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad through his minister, the model man among us today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Oh man, I'm sitting in heaven at once right now. Oh, I can't help it. I don't know whether to use my MC name, my DJ name, my graph name, my B-boy name. I don't know which one. We might have to pull all them triggers tonight.
Yes, sir. No.
And offer some duas. So let's make it happen.
That's right. And just a side note, brother, I just hit 50 with you. So we together on that.
There it is. We there.
And now we hear a closing word as of introduction from our brother, Student Minister Abdul Haleem.
Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the merciful, I bear witness there's no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, whom praise due forever. Thank him for raising in our midst our divine leader, teacher, and God, the exalted Christ, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we thank them both for not leaving us alone, but leaving in our midst our brother, servant, and friend, the Jesus and Messiah, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Brother Vaughn, thank you so much. Man, you pulled out receipts on me, brother. What's what I'm going to do? I'm going to answer the question, and then I'm going to be quiet like Brother Jamil said. I'm here to learn, because I'm a child of the 60s and 70s music. I was 16 when hip-hop was born, so that tells you how old I am.
Yes, sir.
But you asked the question, can hip-hop be guided back to the right cause? And from the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, as given and demonstrated by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, my answer to you is emphatically yes. Because Allah destroyed the impossible when he created himself out of triple darkness. So he destroyed the impossible. And the last point I'll make is just a little story. There was a man who had a dog that sat on the porch. A salesman came up to his farmhouse and he came up to him trying to sell him Hoover vacuum cleaners. And he saw the dog there, and the dog was sitting below the man, and the dog was moaning. Man, the man said, the vacuum cleaner salesman said, what's wrong with your dog? The man sitting on the porch said, well, he's laying on a nail. He said, well, why doesn't he get up? He said, it doesn't hurt enough. So it boils down to this. Dissatisfaction, the teachings teach us, brings about a change. And when the righteous get 100% dissatisfied with what is the hijacking of hip hop, the culture vultures, then that change will come. And I believe that this radio show and this symphony, part 3, part 4, part 59, is the answer to that question.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show. I told you you were in for a treat tonight. And Big Dave, we're going to blow through the brakes.
Yep, I think we will.
We're going to blow through the Let's jump right in. I want to get the easy stuff out of the way first. Now, before we even start with the subject matter at its core, some will write us off as being old haters who are simply out of touch, and they think that we're against anything new just because it's new. When there's that kind of barrier already in front of us and a preconceived notion when we address a topic like this, how can we get past that barrier and let the young generation know that there is a hand working against them through the very music they listen to? Now, that's the question on the table. Now, what I'm going to do for time's sake is I'm just going to pick 2 guests to answer each question, and we'll keep it rotating like that. So I'm going to pick for this segment, let's pick Brother Minister Jamil and Brother Abel.
All right. Brother Abel, if you don't mind, I'll be very, very brief. I am old, but I'm not old. I'm mature, seasoned, if you will. And I've had a chance to see the development of new trends, new ideas in our community, as Brother Haleem pointed out, even before the ascent of hip hop as a specific genre. And I can tell you that there is nothing that we can do outside of what Allah has called us to do that will be successful in any way, in any field of endeavor. When Allah says to us that he called us to accept our own and be ourselves, and then reminded us that our own self is a righteous Muslim, that settles all the argument. The realm of righteousness is so vast so as to include nearly everything in the universe. The realm of what you can't do is so small, it's tiny. But we get so offended and upset worrying about what we can't do that we lose sight of all the things we can do, and then doggone it, we don't do anything. So our music becomes nothing but fodder for commercial enterprises to exploit us and then toss us on the scrap heap of society in their so-called cancel culture. No, the best friend that hip hop as a genre has is the voice of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. You can take it or let it alone. I don't want to follow Farrakhan. I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to be over here. Fine. He makes it safe for you to have the right of self-expression. Because your self-expression has to be more than just, I'll get stacks of money and I'll pimp people and I'll throw people, whatever the stuff that we're hearing about. Man, people are tired of that. And you ain't even got no bars. Your flow is weak. And you mumbling. I'm just saying. Brother Abel, I don't know, brother. It's my
Brother Abel, please, sir.
You know, for me personally, because I have, my son who's 26, my daughter who's 21, and I have 2 other younger daughters, 13 and 10, and they listen to different things. So I listen with them. And, if we're honest, I'll be 48 this year. So I'm right behind you all in age there. But in this generation, if we're honest and look back, all hip hop in the 80s and 90s was not positive or revolutionary. So we have to be on all the music of the 50s and 60s. Yeah, you had maybe one song or two songs by a James Brown, by a Marvin Gaye, of what's going on, but that wasn't the norm back then either. Those are just songs that they were so unique, they stand out from the crowd. And I would almost challenge us to say, if we look, there are more artists with positive messages today. The difference is the popular music, which we were able to, which was underground when we were coming up as real hip hop. Now it's on the radio, and the commercialized music is very degenerate, but it was degenerate back then too. It's just a different state. I think it hurts us of the hip hop generation because we grew up with an affinity for it due to its impact of positivity in our life. But for every wise, intelligent, and Chuck D, there was a Too Short. You know what I mean? There's always been that yin and yang. And I think to just say that because this is not the music of our generation, which it shouldn't be, it's ours wasn't our parents. I think it would be unfair and unjust to expect it to sound like ours. I have a great appreciation, though I don't listen to all of it. I like a J. Cole. I like Vic Mensa that's coming here out of Chicago, young brother. People who, by the way, have also been impacted by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I think it's inescapable, and we have to be honest with ourselves and make sure that we're not being unjust to expect them to sound like us and sound like that old, raggedy man who just hates young people. No, let's give it an honest ear. And if we give it an honest ear, it may not be your cup of tea, but that doesn't mean it's not somebody else's. And I think that's the balance. The thing that rings in my mind is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's words when I was blessed to hear him on an occasion speak to teachers. And he told the teachers and the parents that were present at the time,
yes, sir,
don't forget what it was like when you were young, when you were a teenager. And I think we always have to listen to the music, not how it affects us, but where are they, and is it doing for them possibly what our music of our time did for us? And I think that'll give us a more fair and balanced, even potential appreciation for some of what is there, because there is a lot of good there still.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Brother Abel, y'all. You're tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show. This is the Symphony Part 2. I'm telling you, tag somebody, share the show, because tonight we're going to move fast. We're going to move hard because we got a question. We're asking, can hip hop be turned around? Can hip hop be guided back to a right course? This next question will be from my brothers, Dr. Haleem and the Imam. Some might argue, brothers, that tonight's topic is kind of built on a faulty premise. And here's why they could probably argue that. They might say that, well, hip hop is an artistic expression that is obviously subjective. So how can that be subject to being guided if it's subjective in its nature? Brother Salaam?
Well, I would just say, historically speaking, and I think Brother Abel touched it, we're dealing with generations upon generations of creativity coming out of our adversity, our pain, our torture, our mistreatment. So historically speaking, the way concepts and art forms start is not the way that they finish, but along the way they go through their ups and downs and have their ebbs and flows. But the true nature out of which they come never ceases. It just has to be rediscovered. And this is why in music you have what is called Renaissance, right? Hip hop has had several renaissances in the last 10 to 15 years, if not 20, especially as we came out of the 80s and through the golden years of the 90s and that late 90s,
right,
kind of touchy. And so we attempted to have a renaissance in terms of its true art form, but the 2000s got really ugly. But is it salvageable? Yes. Why? Because when we moved through the nuances of what ended up becoming jazz music, it did not stay the same.
Right.
When it got to certain places, there are people that fell off because they couldn't take it anymore. But guess what? The music kept going. However, it went to such extreme, we didn't know what jazz and what wasn't. And there became the argumentation in jazz music among who was true and who was this and what is contemporary versus straight ahead and ragtime and all of these times. But guess what? The same thing happened in hip hop, because to the younger generation, they don't have their roots to how it came about. And
yes, sir.
The enemy takes our roots and our connectivity away from our history and from our true essence, which is God himself. So teaches the Honorable Elijah Muhammad through his minister. Then we're still arguing over who's the top 5, who's
Look
this,
at
that. So I close with this. There's only 2 art forms of music that are specifically born here in America, and it's jazz and it's hip hop, and they both come through us.
Look at that.
Everybody feeds on it. That's a whole nother topic. But I will say this: is it salvageable? Oh, absolutely. All it takes is to reconnect a generation with the roots and the essence of it. Even though their ear may not want it all, they'll get just enough to bring it back where we can enjoy it in its pristine place once again.
Yes, sir. Dr. Haleem, are we chasing our tails here with this argument about
no, sir. I will pick up where Brother Imam left off. In the build-up to the 2005 Millions More movement, the anniversary of the historic Million Man March, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, in speaking in Ebenezer AME Baptist Church, gave a talk, and he said, "Where will we be without pain?"
Right.
And we're taught that after learning mathematics, which is Islam, and Islam is mathematics, it stands true. You can prove it in no limit of time. The Honorable Minister Lord Farrakhan said, "Pain is the mother of creativity."
Yes, sir.
And he says, "And without pain, you cannot create." So let me connect the dots.
Come on now.
Go back to the Negro spirituals. They were out of our pain and our desire to be delivered. And then it went to gospel, where our brother gave the great song, or put together the great song, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand." What had happened? He was away on a musical tour. His wife gave birth. She died in childbirth, and the infant son died. So he put the song together, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand." And that's the birth of gospel. Jazz. Jazz was our expression to escape our pain, but they called it jackass music. That's what jazz was.
How about that?
And then nobody got the blues like the black man. And then there's rhythm in blues. And then you got funk, and you got go-go, and you got hip hop. All of this comes out of our expression of our pain and our escape from pain. And as Brother Abel pointed out, brother, all of it wasn't positive, and even those artists who were considered a little ratchet, they tried to do a positive song or two.
Right.
We seem to forget that, we're taught to, we don't actually practice religion as one would say, "Oh, I'm spiritual. I don't believe in religion."
That's what they say.
Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as Brother Student Minister Dr. Wesley Muhammad said, they're verifiable truths. Verifiable truth. So let me give it to you in the physics class. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction.
Say that.
The fact that hip hop was an expression of the anger and the depression of the children of New York in particular, from arts being taken out, the city just about going bankrupt, the canvases and art being taken out of school. So they used the subway car as their canvas.
Listen.
You didn't let us have instruments, school board. So what did? We took our parents' albums from the 50s and 60s and sampled them, and that's how we came up with our beats. And so we MCs started rapping.
Come on.
Started scratching. Break dancers took the linoleum that was left over and put it in the school park and started dancing. And we had graffiti on it. Come on, man. So everything is an evolution. And if we don't understand that out of our pain comes this creativity, and it's going to keep expressing itself, and I go back to our dissatisfaction is going to create that renaissance that is being talked about right now by us here.
Yes, sir.
That dog laying on that nail. Lord have mercy. We haven't laid on that nail long enough, y'all. You're watching the Rockwell Radio Show. This is DJ Rockwell, your host, and you're tuned into the Symphony Part 2. Dave, we said we was going to keep these men 60 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
Let's keep rolling fast as we can. We haven't even got to our first break yet. Let me now direct these questions back to Brother Jamil and Brother Abel with this one. We know the enemy is wise. That we know. But we also know that he ain't original. What is happening now with rap? We've seen before, in fact. For historical context, can a parallel be drawn, Brother Jamil, Brother Abel, between what we saw in the blaxploitation era of Hollywood with what's happening right now with hip hop?
Yes, it can be. Very briefly, commercially, our exploiters know how to exploit. Our abusers know how to abuse. And when they find something that they can exploit and abuse, they control it the best of their ability, market it to the extent of its marketability, and then abandon it after that marketability is seen as having run its course.
Yes, sir.
In the music industry, you saw a similar rise of exploitative business practices. There's no other way for you to call it. When you think about the large labels snapping up young people out of the communities of the city, and I love Dr. Haleem's description of New York in the 70s, a place of desolation and desperation, forward to city, drop dead. The city's coffers empty, its ability to provide even basic safety for its citizens everywhere compromised, but particularly in what they call Fort Apache, the South Bronx, which coincidentally is the birthplace of what we call hip hop. In blaxploitation, there was a need for Black self-expression, and I'll conclude on this point. There was a need for Black self-expression. Blaxploitation movies were not designed to be foolish, even though some of them were. Some of the movies that you saw in the early 70s during the blaxploitation craze were designed to make self-expression for our people, even the parts of it that were somewhat profane and a little bit hard to deal with by the more genteel among us. It was difficult, but we had to hear what was being said in Putney Swope. We had to deal with what was being said in Sweet Sweetback's Bad Bad song. We had to deal with the creation of a character like John Shaft, you know,
come on now,
in his black leather suits and his turtleneck, and you know, he was self-reliant and bold, and he resisted the old way of thinking. That was something that made us proud. But gradually it became morphed and it became a commodity in the way of it being exploited. And so our characters became clowns, big old hats on and feathers and colorful shoes with fish in the heel. Yeah, baby, what's up? What's happening? I loved it, that dude. So Robert Townsend gave the very key element of satire to what he did in Hollywood Shuffle. And he talked about that time period. So did the same thing happen in music? You're darn tootin'.
How about it?
The music started out as a legitimate means of self-expression, and there's still elements of that in it.
Yes,
but
sir.
what has become more commercially viable for the people who control the rights and distribution and who control the means by which we can produce and distribute and promote our own music, as DJ Christoflex has said, those people have decided that what they want you to hear is not the classic hip hop that you've come to love. They want you to get Lil Nas X.
Come on now.
And they want you to get a pink cowboy hat with some sparkles on it. And they want you to claim that you are androgynous and you are not this sex or the other sex. And they'll promote you if you promote debauchery. But I said at the top of the program, unless we hear and obey Farrakhan today, because he comes with a message from Allah in person through his risen and exalted Christ. I know y'all don't want me to do no preaching. I don't do no preaching on these videos. I don't do that. But I'm telling you, that's the way we survive. That's it.
Brother Abel.
Yes, sir. I have to, absolutely agree with Brother Jamil and with our brother student Imam, Abdul Salaam, and our regional minister, Abdul Haleem have been saying, because, you know, through looking at this through the lens of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught to us by the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, we know that if we examine the origin of a thing, we can understand its nature. We'll understand how environment influences it. And then in examining that environment and the ongoings or the things going on around it at its inception, it better helps us to understand what it is that we're looking at. Well, let's look at hip hop through that lens. What was happening in the Bronx? What was happening in New York as a microcosm of what was happening to the Black and darker peoples all over, not just the country, but at the world at that moment in time? There was lack, there was upheaval, there was absolutely a yearning for something new. So it's not by accident that in those areas where it was the Black mixed with people from the Caribbean, mixed with some from Latin American influences, some from other influences, but together there was a conglomeration,
yes, sir,
of influences that then produced this music that spoke to the heart, to not just the suffering, right, but also that just gave us relief for a moment from whatever we were experiencing at that time. And it had a positive effect. And we saw that we could even begin to monetize it and profit from it. But guess who else saw that? Those who controlled the purse string saw that as well. And they came in, and I love that word you used, the exploiters. Brother Jamil, I believe you said that the exploiters come in from the outside of the community,
yes,
and offer a people little to nothing something. So I can't even call them sellouts, because if you have nothing and someone offers you something, it's called survival, not selling out.
Come on, man. There
was necessarily this high regard for that. They didn't know they were creating a new culture necessarily at that moment. They didn't know it would become a Grammy, category and world influence. They didn't know that when it was fought, but it was absolutely forming at that time. And just to use as I close the example, since I brought his name up earlier, of our dear brother Too Short, you know, heard from the Honorable Minister Farrakhan how our beloved brother, he wanted to make positive music. Yet somebody who is not from our community influenced him and controlled him to the point and manipulated him to a degree to say that, oh, you know, don't do that. You're going to basically lose what you have. And so even when our brothers want to do better, there are others on the outside who have always been outside, who are always looking in to see, how can I not only control, but how can I absolutely use this as an instrument of influence, so that even if you have one good song on the album, one positive song, the other 9 or 10 are going to be so degenerate. We're not going to make a video and a single for the one good song. That's not the popular one. We're going to popularize the madness, and it puts us overall now as the influencers. The Black community is absolutely the influencers all over the world now. Everybody is trying to follow what the trends of Black people and what they are assuming is hip hop culture. So you have in Mexico today people who are singing with, you know, mariachis, but they're dressing like they see the popular figures in rap music dress, because it's the culture and the trend, and the influencers want to control the message. They want to limit any kind of positive output, because they know that that would have a worldwide effect today. And they saw it back then. We just didn't know how precious what we were handling was at the time.
Do you understand the words coming out of his mouth? I tell you what, you are tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show. Dave, we 45 minutes in. Oh my God. We need everybody to go ahead and observe the 3 rules of the Rockwell Radio Show. If you have not done so, hit the like and share button. Go ahead and tag someone tonight. And if you're watching on either platform, the Rockwell Radio Show on YouTube or Closing the Gap, please subscribe tonight and make sure you turn on the notifications. We are up against the break, and we'll be back with some more of the Rockwell Radio Show right after this.
What up with it, man? You already know what time it is. It's me, Young Kinda Don. I'm up in this thing. Peace. This is Aziz, the kid Kareem, the left, giving them seed.
Peace, everyone. This is Brother Anthony K. Muhammad, also known as A-Tone, the hip-hop historian.
Peace, family. What's going on? It's Brother Jabril, Brother Mustafa, Lordship Productions in the building.
I am your sister, Arian Nicole. Peace, peace, peace. It's your sister, Sue X, and you're watching the Rockwell Radio Show.
You are now tuned in live to the Rockwell Radio Show.
Right now, you're listening to Rockwell Radio Show.
Rockwell Radio. If you ain't listening, man, you wasting time. You on all these other stations, you need to tap in. Rockwell Radio.
You know what it is. Watch them, watch them, watch them.
I'm here with Brother Rockwell, the Rockwell Radio Show.
You ain't in the game, you in the stand. Stop playing, man. Let's go.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You are tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show. This is the Symphony Part 2. My guests tonight are the student ministers of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, our brother Jamil, brother Abel, brother Dr. Haleem, and the Imam is Abdul. Salaam. Let me slow the mouth down and speed the brain up. We're going to get back into it now. And we're going to look at one of my favorite rappers of the 90s. He wrote a book in 2020. I am talking about a brother by the name of Wise Intelligent of the Poor Righteous Teachers. He wrote a book called 3/5 of an MC, The Manufacturing of a Dumbed Down Rapper. In the first chapter of his book, he says this. He says, mainstream rappers are the most popular and most vocal representatives of systemically created, dumbed down Black public figures. To secure the bag and chase a check, we have not only agreed to falsify our consciousness, but the consciousness of millions of Black youth looking to rappers for answers, calls to action, and guidance concerning how their communities, and people are being treated at every level of our collective existence without redress. That's Wise Intelligent from PRT. That's thick with information. So we're going to piece that apart a little bit. And I want to ask a question. I'm going to go to the Imam, and then I want to go to Dr. Abdul Haleem. The question is this. What if rappers replied to his sentiment by saying, I'm not a role model, I'm a businessman. If you want role models, stop looking to entertainers. What is your response to this kind of thinking, Brother Salaam?
Well, first and foremost, Wise Intelligent, that beautiful piece of work that he did with his book. I'm blessed to have a signed copy.
Come on now.
And one of the things that he pointed out in an interview, and he kind of touches it in the book as well, is that when they were coming along they already had been introduced to some form of consciousness. So the waste of money that we see happening in hip hop, and just the grotesque use of money and the chasing of money. He talked about in their day, when they made money, they were thinking more about how they were going to get a ticket to Minister Farrakhan's lecture.
Right.
They were going to get to that arena because of the time and the climate that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had affected, starting in the 70s as the national representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, headquartered at Mosque Number 7, and then in the rebuilding effort, tapping back into those babies born in the mid 60s that were now becoming the premier artists, the MCs, the graph writers, and etc. So I would say to that type of talk that we're not role models. We're business people. But the thing is we're taught from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his minister through scripture that if you got wealth, you got to marry that with wisdom. And that's what Wise Intelligent and Chuck D and many others that they learned something about this Satan. But at the same time, the minister was teaching who Satan was, and they already had some level of consciousness in them. See, Wise Intelligence is dangerous to the young hip hop artists or rappers today. Right. Chuck D is dangerous to them. Just like Minister Farrakhan was written off as being dangerous to Chuck D and Eric B and KRS-One and X-Clan, and that to the point that they had to make a shift from positive hip hop to now what became affectionately known as gangster rap. Listen. So I would push back to say, hey, listen, we're the best examples from the Nation of Islam for our people because we're from them. We come through what they come through. We've indulged in what they've come through. And in the hip hop industry, many of us that joined the Nation of Islam were on our way to having that same type of rap career that we could have been pulled into, and many the minister pulled out of. I'll just close it with this. Do you know that when we go out among our people to this day, no matter how low down they become and influenced by this music, they still open up to us because we are the people of God's choice?
Come on.
So I would say that we push back like they push back with we're just business people. We don't marry that garnering of fiat money with wisdom to do something like Slim Thug is doing. Right. And any of these other artists, look at Bun B. We're not thinking of him as a rapper anymore, though he's a classic. But he got Trill Burgers rolling right now.
That's right. That's right.
And I hear they're good.
Oh yeah. So I would only say that we have a responsibility to not disassociate with this generation that is in front of us, though they are displaying ignorance and though they're justifying getting the bag and holding the money and the jewelry and the cars and the things and that. No, we got to take the wisdom and the way and the manner of the model man that is in our midst, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and bring that right to our people face to face. And in that, we can salvage hip hop and bring it back to its glory days.
Dr. Haleem, what do you say to those who say we're businessmen, not role models?
Let me do something, Brother Vaughn, because I prefer student minister or brother than doctor. I don't want to be separated from that. I did earn my PhD. It's not honorary, but
yes, sir. Absolutely.
Student minister our brother is the greatest title, honestly.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And so, and I always try to be a brother. But let me go right to Wise Intelligence and the X-Clan and Busta Rhymes and all of those who were touched by the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and influenced by the demonstration of those teachings and the explanation of those teachings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You know, the lessons, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, when he wrote us a cover letter, when he gave us the lessons, he said they were to unlock the hidden meaning of the Bible and Holy Quran.
Yes, sir.
And it was to unlock the hidden powers of the original people. And it locked up 66 trillion years of rebellion and dissatisfaction. And it opened for us and our people and the total human family to the kingdom of God. And that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad desired for all of us to master this assignment. Minister Farrakhan coined the statement, or coined the phrase, that he who gives you the diameter of your knowledge prescribes to you the circumference of your activity. And so we don't seem to want to parse the word programming. Radio programming. It doesn't matter whether I'm in B-Mall, whether I'm in Washington, D.C., whether I'm in Chicago, L.A., Houston, Dallas. These stations are playing the same songs everywhere. So our people are being socially programmed. We seem to forget the scripture that says the devil deceived the whole world.
Right.
Everywhere that we have traveled, whether it was Africa, I traveled to Turkey, China, Central, South America, the Caribbean, all over the world, these youth are bumping hip hop music.
Right.
And the scripture said, to whom much is given, the much is to be required. And so you may, I'm no role model. Well, let me put it like this. You said, well, I'm in show business, but you need to be in the business of the show.
Come on.
Own your own. You have to own your own publishing rights. You got to own your own masters. You got to be able to control your dollars. You got to know how they're spending your money when you do a video and all that. You're just happy to be seen. See, when you have a person who has a deflated ego, or they're poor, or they're poverty, or they have a poverty of their self-esteem being low, and somebody's going to put you on a stage where you can be applauded. When you have the honeys running after you, where you got groupies, where you got money, where you got party, you got people throwing stuff at you all the time, you aren't even watching your money. But
how about that?
Brother Imam pointed out, the Slim Thugs, the Trader Truths, the Bun B's, and others in my city that I know of are doing exactly what he's saying. And then look at the evolution of LL Cool J. You remember cars drive by with a booming system?
Booming system, come on.
Word is bond, right? Where's the word is bond come from? It come from
Listen,
right?
Listen.
So Queen Latifah. Excuse me? Queen Latifah?
Right.
Yeah, okay. So all of that, when we look at even Tupac, we look at that. Look, what we need today is a revolution, but not a revolution with a gun. Revolution is caused by light of the sun striking the earth at this equator and causing it to turn. Right now, we're in the dark, but the time is coming because there's an old world going out and a new world coming in. We're in transition, and in that transition, we're in a dangerous time. And so it's important now that we understand that the light of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that comes from his father, our father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, from Allah in person himself, has come to liberate us and understand. Walk through the scriptures, beloved.
Listen.
Look at what Pharaoh wanted to do. He wanted to kill all male children. What did Herod want to do? Kill all male children, 2 years old and younger. And what did the dragon want to do? The dragon wanted to get that woman that was going to give birth to a child, a male child that was going to rule the earth with a rod of iron. So we're being effeminized. We're called toxic masculinity. They're breaking up our families. They're socially engineering us to destroy us because they know that the black man is God. And if we don't realize who we are, then our problem is, I'll close with this part. When you go to Matthew, the 17th chapter, the 16th through the 21st verse, and the disciples were unable to cast out the devil out of this boy. And the man said, well, I brought the boy to your disciples. They couldn't do it. Jesus, you this wicked and adulterous generation, you lack of faith, you perverse generation. Come on. And then Jesus rebuked the devil, and the devil left the child within the hour. And then the disciples pulled themselves. Well, what happened? Why couldn't we do it? He said, man, if you had the faith of a mustard seed, you could say, go to the mountain and be removed. He said, but this kind, listen, the devil, we're not up against some devil, some little snake in the garden, man. We're up against a full-blown dragon that's making war in heaven. There's a battle in the sky going on for our minds using the airwaves because he's the prince of the air. And I'll close with this one. But he said, this kind, meaning this kind of devil we're up against, this satanic mind we're up against, he said, it only comes through prayer and fasting. And this is why we as disciples have to be very careful not pushing the minister around in our mind. Why does he appoint imams? Because we need those who will lead us in prayer. Why do we fast now during Ramadan? Yes, to unite us with the Muslim world, but there's a deep spirituality in fasting and prayer They go together, brothers and sisters. And so I'm saying to us, stop pushing the minister around in our mind. Have the faith, the grain of a mustard seed, and we can say to the mountain of the devil that's sitting on the neck of our people, be removed, and we can cast it into the ocean of the sea of forgetfulness of our people's sins, and let us now be like the minister and be forgiving and stop being so judgmental of our people and go and heal their wounds. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to go off. I just
hold on. Dave, did you like that?
Fired up, man.
Oh yeah, I like it. I dug it.
People, if you enjoyed that as much as me and Big Dave, can I get everybody in the chat room to put a number 1 for the one true God? This is the Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. Wow. Good night. Thank y'all for coming out. We want to hurry up and try to move to a close because we are now at our hour mark. Why did we think an hour could do this?
Optimistic. I can't even keep up with all the ones going up right now. I cannot.
Let's step it up and move faster. Let's move faster. Now, we're not done with Wise Intelligent just yet. This next question will go back to his excerpt, but it will flip the script. And this question will be for our brothers Jamil and brother Abel. Listen to this. He pointed out in that excerpt, brothers, that the youth are looking at the rappers for answers, calls to action, and guidance. On many occasions, the minister has also pointed out this very fact. But listen to this. In all fairness, does that indicate a failure on the effectiveness of proper parenting, the educational system, and faith leaders in society?
Short answer, yes. Now, follow me now. See, I be teaching. But I wanted to just say this to you. See.
If you know, you know. If you know, you know out there.
You know. Trenton makes, the world takes. But I have to say this to you, brothers and listening audience, and I want to make sure that we have as many of our sisters to come in the chat and let us know you're here. We're not here because of our masculine biology. There was no attempt to exclude the female voice from this dialogue.
We got something for that.
We have something for that. But I want to just say this: the failures of traditional parenting and institutional guidance is the reason why we're in this pickle. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us without any doubt that Islam comes after all else what? Fails. That the failure of the institutions has caused our young people, whose nature calls upon them to seek guidance, to seek it where they can find it, but they see the gaping holes in the credibility of those who should be providing leadership, but for the most part are sold out to the enemy. They see that their parents have been beaten down by surviving in a predatory economy which exploits their capital as workers and subjects them to the grinding mill of paying bills until they're dead.
Right.
They look at the schools and see that the schools have been taken over by petty bureaucrats who seek crumbs off the table of the institutional rich man. Instead of inspiring the young people, they were missioned to teach and to save.
Yes, sir.
So yes, they go to rappers looking for institutional or guidance or inspiration that they should get from other sources. When Minister Malcolm gave a press conference in 1963, he spoke about the ludicrousness and the lunacy of Black people are asking trumpet players and comedians and show business actors and vaudevillians to be spokesmen and leaders for a people. That is out of place and out of pocket.
Right.
No other people have to suffer from that except us, to the extent that we do. No white communities are looking at the leadership of Elton John.
Come on.
They're not seeking the input of Lady Gaga on the issues of the day. They're not putting a microphone under the face of those who make music. Hey, Ed Sheeran, tell us what you think.
Right.
But in Black communities, that's the case because of the destruction of the infrastructure of leadership and continuity in our society. Islam comes to rebuild that, but not just as good as it was, but to build it better. I'm reminded of something tonight, and you can see in the shot with me, and I prepare to give way to my brother Abel. But when you look in the shot behind me, you see a black and white photograph of a gentleman seated in his dressing room about to go on stage and perform with his band. That gentleman, and as sure brother Imam Salaam can tell you, and quickly, that's Edward Kennedy Duke Ellington.
Okay.
Duke Ellington is a man in the music business, yes, and in the history, yes, and in the creative herb, yes. But Duke Ellington is a man who had to go through these phases and learned hard lessons. He learned about the exploitive, predatory nature of one Irving Mills.
Okay.
Who signed Duke to a contract to see if he could guard him, but then stole his publishing rights and appears to this very day as a co-composer of songs that he never had anything to do with, and his family still eats off the creativity of Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn.
Come on now.
So right now, the exploitive nature of what has happened in the music industry has been combined with the fall of America and its collapse on the head of the Negro who's not yet independent thinking. And all of that created the perfect storm that, yes, our young people look at rappers for leadership. But if you pardon me, I have to say one last thing, Brother Abel.
Mm-hmm.
The intellectual community, the academic community, those members of that community see many of the rappers who are doing things in the community as reactionary, conservative capitalists. They think that these rappers are imitating the white capitalism that has exploited us and put us under its boot. Be very careful, dear brothers and sisters, to take the vanguard position of political sophistication that arises from a proper understanding of the universal nature of the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad as represented to us by the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Come on.
Many of them limited in their understanding. They see us seated here tonight in suits and ties, and they view that as a means of cultural illegitimacy. They can't be really hip because they're wearing suits and ties.
Come on.
But they don't understand yet. So we follow the model of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We find ourselves emulating him, but not imitating him. Being ourselves, but being guided to the best of ourselves by our obedient compliance with the instructions of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You all want me to tell you there's another way. You want me to tell you can be filthy and low down and no good and ratchet and nasty as hell and be all right, but you can't.
Come on.
You have to be righteous in this hour, and in this hour it is only your righteousness and mine that will sustain us in any field of endeavor. Take it or let it alone.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show. Brother Abel?
Yes, sir. You know, just to echo the sentiments of our brother Jamil and all that has been shared tonight by the brothers, I have to just that what was raised by, I believe it was brother student minister Abdul Haleem just a few minutes ago from the scriptures, that yes, it is a failure of our parents, us as parents. I won't put it on somebody else. Us as parents, us as those who are in positions of influence and striving to be servant leaders of the people. But it also has to be understood within the context of that scripture, what we're looking at.
Come on.
There is an all-out attack to take the physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, and every other aspect of life from us.
Yes, sir.
And in particular, it's aimed at the male and it's aimed through the female. So now today, the filthiest of songs tend to come from the sisters and not the brothers anymore. And that lets us know how far the bar has been lowered, because as we're taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you measure civilization not by the man, but by the woman. And what we're looking at, I think today more and more, is this global impact now of a serpent that has its tentacles and tails wrapped around every aspect of our life. And the only way to really, if we want to get out of this, it is more than just, rappers rap better. In order for a rapper to rap better, he has to know better. And how is he going to know if he doesn't have a teacher?
Come on.
How can he have a teacher if those who claim to know better are going to judge them as already being inferior? They are not going to listen to those who are judging them, those who are telling them they're horrible. So in the perfect example of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he's meeting them where they are, which is in a hell of a condition. Right. But he's trying to, with all that he has available, which is all we need, give them what can be resurrecting for them. And the thing that came to mind with your question, brother, DJ Rockwell, was, you all remember that album by Public Enemy, Apocalypse 91, The Enemy Strikes Black?
Absolutely.
There's a little short, intro in between song called Rebirth on there. And in that song, Chuck D says something about, I don't claim to be a preacher, I don't claim to be a teacher, but I'm grown. I try to be a leader to the bone. That already tells you there's a different mind present there.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Then he says, they ask me where I get it. I get it from my pops. With a man in the house, all the BS stops. So already there, he's giving us remedy from a human being who has matured, and who has been introduced to something that has affected his life. Many of these young brothers, they're 19 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old, and they have been given an outlet out of a terrible condition, but into not a world of making a better reality. They're being told, leave the hood, leave, just look out for yours. And we'll help you look out for yours by these exploiters and colonizers. And these same groups are the same ones that cause the tension between them. The different rappers, the different cliques, the different groups, the different organizations. So on the one hand, they pretend and feign friendship, but undermine it all and hide their hand in their ultimate aim, which is to control, rule, and have the power to kill us on some level. If it's not physical, then they'll kill us with economics. They'll kill us with their mental influence. They'll kill us with their woman problems, because they'll give us a woman to help manage us.
Come on now.
A doctor to help manage us. And now we're sitting here wondering what's wrong with them. What's wrong with them? Everything's wrong with them, because we're at the end of it all. But if we don't look at it from the eye of Scripture, these aren't believers just because they've heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
That's right. That's right.
They're receiving knowledge. It's so unfair to expect them to handle it like you would like a believer to handle.
That's right. That's right.
Major.
Look at how we mishandle our own struggles with so-called belief. We expect the brother that met with the minister one time to, why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? He never said he was a believer. And it's unfair to put that on him. But we do want to equip him with knowledge. But how can we give them and share with them that knowledge if we don't first love them like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan loves them and like he loved us? And I think that's the missing component that would help solve all of this. And if you notice, that's never what they talk about in rap music anymore. There ain't no talk about love outside. They talk about sex. They'll talk about this and that thing, but not real love. And I think that is the missing ingredient that we need. The main ingredient for today is for hip hop to fall back in love with God, fall in love with the messenger of God, so they could learn to love their people. But how can they do that if we don't have the heart to go and introduce them to him?
Man, hey
ladies and gentlemen,
that's it.
Brother DJ Rockwell, I gotta ask you to depart from your scheme right now, because see, as you know, in jazz and hip hop,
yes, sir,
that thread starts happening and we start bound. See, what my brother, student minister Abel, just did was bring up the point of the influence of Islam in the two art forms in music that are only discovered here in America through us.
Come on.
I said it earlier, jazz and hip hop. He just laid it out in terms of the influence of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and its impact on hip hop. But do you know that same thing happened when jazz took a shift?
Come on, Imam.
To what affectionately became bebop, because the younger players that were playing in big bands wanted to have more expression. They wanted to break away from the starchy look and get into the groove of the soul of their field.
Listen,
which leads me to a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad who became a Muslim in jail. We might know him as Detroit Red.
We heard of him.
Right? Others may have known him as Malcolm Little, but we affectionately know him as Malcolm X. Do you mind, with your permission, dear brother, could I read something from the archives that talks right to what you just said from Malcolm X?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Dated March 9th, 1950, a letter from Malcolm X to Brother Raymond out in the community from jail. He's talking about his transition and his resurrection. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to give it the context. He says, my brother, Allah is most beneficent. It is so good to have life and to know that death has been conquered. We have been in the darkness so very long, stumbling blindly alone, wandering. Why this and that, and why that, wondering why this and why that, knowing something was wrong, but not knowing what. Now wonder we do some of the things we have done. Now wonder we drink dope and all sorts of things to soothe our soul. Now wonder we continually have sought the laws of the nightlife. Think, we talking hip hop too, but think
come on now.
Nightlife and to create some sort of peace within ourselves. Now wonder we have to longingly turn to the offer to music for its comforting effects. Now here's the crux. Look at Malcolm, a baby in the teaching. Now break down for the brother he's talking to. Music, brother, is ours.
Yes.
It is us. And like us, it is always here surrounding us like the infinite particles that make up life. It cannot be seen, but can only be felt like life. Think of it now. No, it's not created, but like the never dying soul, eternally permeates the atmospheres with its presence. Wow. Ever waiting for its master, the lordly musician. See? The wielder of souls to come and give it a temple. Wow. Man, he said, would it mold into a song? Music without the musician is the life without Allah.
Listen.
Both being in need of the house, and a home or the temple, the complete song in its creator. He says, yes, brother, Allah is truly God. And I ain't got time to go to the rest of it, but I'm going to send it to you because you can use it in another. Because on the next page, he goes into asking Brother Raymond about prominent jazz artists.
Wow.
Such as Milt Jackson.
Come on.
Such as Sonny Stitt. Such as Diana Washington. Such as B and Dizzy Gillespie. And he's asking about them as it relates to music and Islam. And he asked them, are they following Mr. Muhammad's teachings or are they following the Ahmadiyas? Because Malcolm's concern was, yeah, they're accepting Islam, but they're not accepting the Islam coming from the man that just caused me to write you what I wrote you from my pen.
Come on. Wow.
So it is Elijah Muhammad's influence on Malcolm X and the early Muslims in the 50s that caused those artists like Art Blakey, John Coltrane to have an ascension, Grant Green, Lee Morgan, Miles Davis, And Milt Jackson, by the way, Brother Akbar accepted Islam in his basement, listening to the national radio broadcast where Malcolm X was featured instead of his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, by Elijah Muhammad's permission.
That's a
Don't
fact.
tell me that we as Muslims under the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan don't have the influence that Malcolm X was having on the jazz scene from a prison cell.
Come on,
are y'all listening to this? Are y'all getting this?
Yes, sir.
Don't tell us that. Our man has circled the globe and spread this teaching and has never become irrelevant. And that's why when we listen to what he said about the rap artists, that he does not judge them because he knows that anybody that has millions of followers and that type of influence, they have been given a gift. The thing is, Satan has hijacked the gift.
Yes, sir, brother. Yes, sir.
And has taken it on a course that it is becoming a stagnated pond where that becomes a cesspool with like mosquitoes and a breeding ground for those that carry filth, germ, and disease. But Farrakhan is here to break that pond out of stagnation so it can get back to the proper tributary that comes from God, because as long as water can flow, whatever impurities touch it, it'll run clean. And Farrakhan is the purifier today.
Go ahead.
Listen,
and we as
and gentlemen
must do the same. See, y'all got me going. But thank you, Brother Abel. Right?
Yes, sir.
Your beautiful expression in your time, space, and reality gave me the spacing to bring something that connects the dots from then to now as it relates to music in Islam.
Brother. Let me, Brother Vaughn, I have to say this, brother. This is like being at Minton's Playground up in Harlem, brother Abdul Salaam, where the soloists play off one another because they're all in the same groove.
Listen.
Without the groove, you cannot play those solos. However many bars you take, you can't play the solo unless you're listening to what the other cats are playing on the bandstand, and then you expand from there with your own voice. I'm so honored to hear these brothers expand in their voices through their experiences and the prism of their own knowledge, that which has been given to us in the way of wisdom from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his minister. Brothers, I hope and pray that you have a cool drink of water near the camera, because you've been firing down with the truth of Islam this evening. I only say this, that Islam, brothers and sisters, is the thesis. Minister Farrakhan told me one day, he said, brother, there is a thesis in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. In the world of the academy, and stop me if I'm wrong, Student Minister Haleem, but at the master's level, when you make your statement about what you are learning, you create a master's thesis. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then when you're able to take it higher, you perform a doctoral dissertation. Is that also true?
Yes, sir.
That at those levels of accomplishment and achievement, the thesis is at the root of what you put forward into the field of knowledge for its implementation by your people. Islam is the thesis. The foolishness to which we have devolved became the antithesis, if you will.
Come on.
It is the opposite and opponent. It is the enemy of the thesis in its practicality, even if not in its theory. There's a thesis, there's an antithesis. The brilliance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is that he performs, by Allah's grace, the synthesis.
Yes.
There's a thesis, there's an antithesis, and then there is the synthesis. The aim of Minister Farrakhan is not understood by people who don't have his mission. As his teacher told people, you don't have my mission, so you don't understand me. The mission of Farrakhan is to save, to heal, and to forgive, to effect reconciliation and atonement and forgiveness and renewal and reunion and resuscitation and revival and rescue. If you're not thinking about doing that, you'll be thinking about trivialities like winning arguments. You'll be thinking about foolishness like who got the strongest freestyle. You'll be thinking about foolishness, like who got the most money and who can do the things that my brothers spoke about earlier. I'm so moved by this discussion that I would like to find ways. And I want to work with you, Brother Vaughn, if there's something that I can do to help the Rockwell family, the DJ Rockwell radio program in any way. I want to do that. I'm here on the East Coast near Brother Imam Abdul Salaam. Brother, I want to help you in some way, if I can, to get the word out. There may be somebody's, Pawpaw and Mama and them sitting around. I can talk to them while you all talk to the young folks. But I guarantee you that there's a way, Brother Abel, for us to reach our people globally with a message of solidarity and power. The power to redeem life. The power to save is the greatest power. What does it take more power to do? To kill or to resurrect that which has been certified as dead?
My goodness. Can I hit the reset button real quick?
Yeah. May I join in this symphony?
Matter of fact, absolutely yes.
Let me pass the mic, y'all. Y'all.
I want to throw a question in there if I can.
No, brother, please let me. We broke the paradigm, and the flow is so good. Don't change. Don't give me no sheet music, brother.
There it is.
In all that I just heard, that fed and watered my soul. I think of the words of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad as brought back to us by the honorable Minister Farrakhan when they tried to write him out of history. Don't condemn a dirty glass. Set a clean glass up beside it.
Come on.
We cannot condemn our people, beloved. The honorable Minister Farrakhan is mercy and grace wrapped in human flesh.
Teach.
And he is love personified. As you got Love Supreme, I think that's one of them jazz people, the Love Supreme.
Somebody.
I just, I think I know who you're talking about.
You on the right train. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You're on the right train.
Yeah. Cold train, brother.
The A train.
The A train. But brothers and sisters, dear listeners, Minister Farrakhan represents this to us. Love. You can't save a people if you won't serve a people.
That's right.
You can't lead a people if you don't love the people. You can't redeem the people if you don't respect the people. Minister Farrakhan, sitting in his hotel suite in Houston, Texas, was talking to Jay Prince of Rap-A-Lot. He looked him in the face and he said, brother, one of your rap songs will reach more of my people than all of my speeches. I was floored. I am unapologetically a Farrakhan partisan.
Come on.
Take it and let it alone.
That's right.
But when he said that, I had to wrap that in my mind. It took me years, literally, to come to grips with what he said. Now, I don't mind admitting my own faltering out of my love for Minister Farrakhan, but if you really love him, you have to deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow him in that way.
That's right.
We have to understand the universal expression of what Minister Farrakhan represents of the teachings in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He took the knot out of his tongue by enucleating it, by going in and cracking the atom, but at the same time fusing our minds with his mind, with the mind of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, with the mind of Master Fard Muhammad. Let me close with this point. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is indeed fulfilling and walking through scripture as the Messiah.
No question.
The conditions are such that the people are ready for the Messiah. The question is, how can we help make him known? So I say to us, beloved, that it is incumbent upon us to do all that we can to represent the love of Minister Farrakhan, not to judge our people, because Satan has deceived the whole world. And the conversation that Allah allows us to hear between him and Iblis, him and Satan, about how he would come in thy straight path from front, from behind, from left, from right. He's coming from all directions, but he's going to get all of them but the purified one. And lastly, forgive some of his disciples if we stumble and make mistakes.
That's
there
right.
is no school of theology headed by Dr. Cone or Cornel West or any philosopher, Eddie Glaude in Princeton. There's no school of theology, whether it's in yeshiva, whether it's AME, UME, I don't care, Catholic Church, that teaches the resurrection of the dead.
Listen.
This is something that you get on the job training by intense study of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
That's right.
The example of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and it's incumbent upon us to close the gap. This is not a charismatic character cult.
That's right.
This is each and every one of these men that I have served with and have known for literally for decades. What you're seeing is the expression of each and every one of them, who they are and whose they are, but we are trying to be translucent so that we don't block the light of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to you. But we're saying to the hip-hop world, you have a responsibility. If my minister says that one rap song will reach more of his people than all of his speech, and he's spoken billions of words, then you have a responsibility. But we have a responsibility to you, not for us to rap, but for us to give you the teachings so that you can rap them teachings.
That's right.
Dave, I don't know what else to do here.
We got to rename the show because it ain't your show no more.
It's you're tuning in to the Symphony Part 2. I am so honored to be here with these brothers. I want to re-emphasize again why, and what you just heard is proof why we're not going to the MCs and the DJs for this conversation at this time. We needed somebody that can introduce the light. Now, I almost feel bad, Dave, about introducing this next question behind such heaviness, because this next question adds a bit of levity, if you will. Although we've been laughing a little bit already. We've laughed a little bit already. But it may be timing. We may need a little levity with this one. Now, here's the question. One of my favorite comics in the 90s was this cat from a big family named Damon Wayans. Although he was being funny when he said this, to me, it's a perfect description of the predicament that the rapper finds himself in today. Watch this to see what I mean.
I just don't want to get too comfortable. Brothers can't afford to get too comfortable, you know, because that's when you become the porn. That's when they use you as. Anytime white people want to smooth some shit over, they go get that rich against and put you on TV to represent the people, you know. You have you asking your questions like, Damon, now that you made this $13 million, and we're not counting, now that you made all this money, let me ask you this. Let me just throw this out. You respond any way you want. Is there racism in America? You be sitting there thinking about that paycheck, talking about, no, sir. If and there is, I ain't seen none.
That's Damon Wayans in 1990. And I thought that joke always stuck to my mind. Here's the question that I want to extract from that joke. Because it reminds us that telling the truth comes at a price. Telling the truth There's going to be some sacrifice behind it if you choose to do so. And we're finding that many of our rappers and entertainers refuse to pay the price, refuse to make that kind of sacrifice. So how do we, as the fans of these entertainers, the fans of these various people, how do we hold them accountable when they sell us out like that? I don't even know who to direct this question to.
Look, let me, I'm gonna go to, look. The way that we have to understand it is that in all leadership models, it always starts with a man that God or woman that God raises up and delivers a message. And from that develops a community. But every community of every prophet, whether it's Moses, Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Satan has come in and misdirected that community.
Right.
What's important for us to understand is that Allah has given us another chance to at least get a C grade on our examination.
Come on.
By following the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he has given us everything we need. The question is, will we take not just the thesis and the antithesis and the synthesis, will we implement it? He has given us the example through his own artistic ability of a ministry of arts and culture.
Yes.
And so we have to institutionalize that and take the spirit, the mind, the will of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and put it in this institution called the Ministry of Arts and Culture. And that's the clean glass we have to hold up. We have talented, capable, competent, and qualified people within our nation and in the orbit of the nation that need to be lifted up. And when you talk about the distribution system, the Nation of Islam is a distribution system in and of itself.
Right.
We'll just distribute that wisdom and that knowledge that come through artistic expression and put that clean glass out there, brother. So I love what brother said because it's the truth, man. I had a conversation, I'll close with this, with a very prominent and successful rapper. And I said, brother, you know, I do the best I can. I'm going to pay the price to stand with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. God knows I'm willing to pay the price. I said, brother, but I don't want to ill affect you in what you're doing. He said, let me tell you something, brother Muhammad. He said, I just do business with these people. I'm not going to deny my relationship with you.
Come on, come on.
So there are them out there. Let them make their paper, and at a certain time, they will call, as Abraham asked the question. He wanted to know. He asked of God something, and God said, you know, can you give me a sign of the resurrection? And God kind of questioned him about, you know, your faith. He said, no. This, show me how. And he said, train 4 birds and let them incline to you. Put them on the mountains. And then call them, and that's the sign of the resurrection. Well, many of these birds have been at the table of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in his suite. And they're now on the mountaintops of the world. And at a certain point in time, the Abrahamic expression of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan will call them, and they will come, and that will be a sign of the resurrection. You will see.
Absolutely beautiful. I want to hear from Brother Minister Abel on this one.
Dear brother, I'm blessed here in Chicago to work with some of the young rappers that are coming up here locally in the Black and the brown community, so-called brown community. And I'll tell you, very similarly to exactly what brother student minister Abdul Haleem was just saying, you know, they've gone on TV programs, radio shows, and even though they're not quote unquote registered members of the Nation of Islam, they're not afraid to say his name. They're not afraid to say that I'm influenced by, I listen to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the public, on news programs, in their songs, showing his images, teaching their young people that they're mentoring. I'm talking about teenagers, grammar schools, that because these are 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds. These are young people, mentoring even younger people, and they're mentoring them from what they're learning, from watching clips, from coming to Savior's Day, from experiencing them from the Black community, from the Native Latino community, indigenous community, from the Asian community, and even young white people that are into hip hop, who are now listening to the minister and in agreement with him. So there is such an impact of what's happening here. All we have to do is get them to he who puts every word in their perfect place. So if he has already, we don't have to interfere with it, interrupt it, try to remix it at all. Just bring them to the pure water. And I've been blessed to see it work. I've been blessed to have these young people. They then, since they may not be able to access him directly, they want to converse about what they've read. They have questions. They want to understand. They bring you problems. And the best thing we can do is try to do for them what he's done for us, which is to give us guidance from that truth that is rooted in the scripture. But I think if we could just keep doing that, we've already won. It's just a matter of time now and circumstances that will manifest all the seeds that have been sown.
Yes, sir. I don't know about y'all, but I'm having a great time. I am having a ball right now on the Rockwell Radio Show. If you just joined us, thank you for tuning in. We're going to try to start moving this plane towards the runway. We're coming out of the clouds and we're getting towards the runway now, Dave. My goodness, we are discussing with these beautifully brilliant brothers a topic called, can hip hop be turned back to a right course? Right here live on the Rockwell Radio Show. Now, this next question is maybe considered a little sticky, but I want to try to handle it the best way that I can, because I think it's a historical need to address it. It's about our dear brother, who is a hero of mine, the rapper known as Jay Electronica. In 2014, he made history by being the first FOI to perform in full military garb at the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival. This event was celebrated by some, but criticized by others. So, can an active member of the NOI positively impact hip hop by presenting ourselves in our military dress, or does it potentially devalue it?
Well, is that for us?
Let's
keep it right in the controversy and the man that helped give clarity to what happened. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan addressed it when it became controversial.
Yes.
And unlike the Negro, who always is looking for the one little thread to pull to unravel the whole thing, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan saw the continuity in the making of the garment. In this sense, that when those brothers and sisters looked at Jay Electronica in that FOI uniform, anybody that knows him know he meant every bit of that.
Right.
That wasn't a costume. That wasn't a ploy.
That's right.
And though he had on the chain with the insignia of the followers of Brother Clarence 13X, who comes from the womb of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he's unifying the conscious community that has made hip hop.
Listen.
Right? There's no B-boy stance without the FOI.
Come on.
Teach. Right? Huh? So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us in relationship to these rappers and entertainers that are close to him, influenced by him, and follow and believe in the teachings, leave them alone and get out of his way.
Right. Listen.
Get out of the teacher's way in terms of how he's guiding those missiles.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Because the thing that we know from Satan is he projects imagery that we still trying to get out of our heads. And that image that you just showed on that screen, though many don't like it, though some misjudged it, wherever it landed, you can't get that image out of the head. And Satan know that when that young black man surrounded by the fruit of Islam performed like that, that went around the world, and you can't pull that back. Because guess what? We see the FOI walking through the community with that uniform on. And guess what? That little brother that didn't know what that was, he see Jay Electronica when he see us.
That's right.
He sees Busta Rhymes with a song about Master Farrakhan.
Muhammad.
See? So we got to get out of the teacher's way. And as students, that's one of the biggest mistakes that we ever can make is try to get out in front of the teacher as if he's not connected to generationally what we think we come from.
Yes,
God
sir.
is guiding him. So as the student, he must guide me. Even if I'm from hip hop, he can give me the better understanding of the power of hip hop in the modern time.
Come on. Yes, sir.
That's how I see that. Get out the minister's way.
Get out of his way,
brothers.
Get out of his way. The minister is
anyone else want to touch that before we move on?
The minister is uniquely qualified to teach us and to teach us in a mold that has yet to be seen anywhere in this world. As my brother Haleem pointed out, there is no previously extant school where you can go to learn this. This is resurrection technology. You and I, we're not the resurrector, but we're the resurrection technologists. Can you dig it?
Now.
We may not be the dentist, but we hold in a tray full of instruments for the dentist to work out with.
Right.
This teaching is that which gives life to our people. Our responsibility, those who are in the chat room, as I see you coming in from around the country, sisters and brothers, different geographical areas and cities and towns, your and my job is to the best of our ability to exemplify and verbalize wherever necessary the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad as put forward by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. When we do that, we then provide the clean glass that our brother spoke about earlier. Brother Abel, you put it so beautifully. You said, set the clean glass. Or was it whoever said that? It was one of my brothers. All of us are quadruplets. You can't do nothing about it. We in the same birthday.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm telling you tonight that this hearing of the word has not been new. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke in Los Angeles in 1993 at a lecture, and I'm here with the historian, the archivist, who will stop me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was called Savior's Day 93, Healing the Wounds. And one of the portions of the lecture where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan focused on entertainment in general and hip-hop in particular was a warning that only he is qualified to issue in the way that he did. Why? Because he did what Brother Haleem said. Before you can lead the people, you must love the people. Before you can save the people, you must serve the people. Before you can redeem the people, you must respect the people. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's record of respect and love and service is unimpeachably sterling. Therefore, he can say what he said in 1993, but he was not unclear. He was unequivocal. He said, clean it up. Clean it up, or one day we'll have to visit you and ask you to leave the stage area, or some words to that effect.
That visit, we don't want that visit, boy.
Yeah, the visit. What I'm saying to you is that there is a place for that. No, we're not talking about thuggishly enforcing some arbitrary code of community standards and ethics based on Western morality concepts and all. No, we're not getting into all that aesthetic junk. We're saying that if you disrespect our women, if you disrespect our elders, if you come for our children with a culture of ignorance, we can't afford it. We have to respectfully ask you to surrender the microphone at this time. There's nothing wrong with that.
I love
that. That is the work of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You and I don't call the time when that happens, but we have to be aware that that is an option.
Listen.
This music is so precious to our people because the tongue, the Bible says, is a mighty powerful member. It has within its capacity to give both life and death. And in the beginning, hip-hop was the Word.
The Word.
And the Word was with God. And the Word, in fact, was God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among men. Words have power. And before every concrete reality, there is first, before that, a word, and even before that, a thought. And the thought of hip hop must be to save and to heal and to forgive and to bring about reconciliation among the people broken in our slave experience, and now placing us on top of civilization in accord with the will of the one supreme and sovereign being in the universe, the Lord of all the worlds, who said, I will climb a mountain 40 miles high just to teach one of you. Then I'll stand on top of the world and tell everybody that the most beautiful nation is in the wilderness of North America. I'll eat rattlesnakes.
Rattlesnakes, come on.
To see you be free. That kind of love, that kind of service, that kind of respect is the province, not solely of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We can have our portion of it too if we follow him, obey him, and do what the Holy Quran teaches to us. In Surat Al-Nisa, I believe it is, Brother Salaam, we are told to, O you who believe, respond to Allah and his messenger when he calls you to that which gives you life. That's the hour that we in. Let our words give life. Let us call to the way of Allah with a goodly exhortation. Let's argue with them if we must, but let's do it in the best manner. And let us open the doors, expand our breasts, make room in our assembly for more people to come, and then heal them, save them, forgive them, and remind them, I'm finished now, from the Holy Quran 39 and 53, O my servants who've been prodigal regarding your souls, despair not of the mercy of Allah. Know that Allah forgives sins altogether. I wish I knew somebody that had benefited from that beside me.
Come on.
Allah forgives sins altogether. He'll ball up your sin like an old piece of typing paper and cast it into the depths of the sea of forgetfulness. He'll do that for rappers too, because he wants to save rappers too. They're not our enemies. They're our little brothers trying to get a few dollars and get somebody to love them and get a plate of fish with some salt, pepper, ketchup, and hot sauce on it, some French fried little mambo sauce to be in DC. That's all they're trying to do. And they are our family, and we love them.
Rakim said that fish was his favorite dish.
But without no money, it's still a wish.
That's what Rakim said. Brothers and sisters, you're watching the Rockwell Radio Show. Who knew that this was going to be a special edition? I didn't know. Well, yeah, I kind of knew that. I knew. That would be true if I said that. But we're going to now bring this edition of the Symphony to a close with a video that I have played on this platform before. What I'm going to do is play this video, and on the other side of it, I would like to get your closing thoughts on what you saw in this clip and how. Matter of fact, I'm going to just play the clip and the question on the other side. Watch this.
Do you ever talk to these artists about cleaning up their music and being more positive and not talking about hoeing and drugs? Because you meet with a lot of artists.
Yes.
You meet with a lot of artists.
When they sit down with me, I'm not their judge. Elijah Muhammad said to me, when I'm gone, brother, you may sit in my seat as the father over the house in my absence. I love my people. I live and I will die to see our people free. When I meet a rapper, I'm looking at the God within him, that he has 5 million, 10 million followers. You don't magnetize 10 million followers unless you have a great gift. And that gift comes from only one source, he who gives the gift. That's God.
So as we get ready to close, and we bring up the background music of the symphony, and this is the biggest challenge that I'll offer you all tonight. In 60 seconds or less, David just died of. Can you articulate for the listening and watching audience why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is divinely outfitted to be just the one that can turn hip hop back on the right course? Let's hear from Brother Jamil, Brother Abel, Brother Salaam, and Brother Haleem, please.
Through you, dear minister, I will get all of my people. Period. You either take that or you let it alone. You either accept it or you reject it. But like I used to learn back in Philadelphia, Brother Salaam, Minister Jeremiah used to say, Islam, you can either accept it and live or you could reject it and die. There was no two ways about it, and there's no two ways today. Islam, come to life, come to cultivation, come to success, come to a life of progress and benefit. It won't all be easy, but it's better than being a stone cold, dead in the market fish of a Negro who has no knowledge of self and no knowledge of the time and no ability to affect any ability or any defense for himself and his family from the obvious attacks of our open enemies. Farrakhan is the man, and he comes in the hour of the fullness of time to justify Allah's designation of himself as the true national representative of the living, exalted Christ, the eternal leader of the nation of Islam, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who is the messenger of Allah, not just any Allah, but the one that he represents to us, who appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom all praise is due forever. Those are just the incontrovertible facts. Those are what my dear brother Dr. Wesley Muhammad calls verifiable truths.
Come on now. And now we pass the microphone to our dear brother in Chicago, Brother Abel. Unmute yourself.
Thank you, dear brother. Our dear brothers and sisters who are listening or who may watch this, I would say that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is unique in that he has the composition and the constitution that comes not just because of what he holds in knowledge, but the quality of his heart is the factor that is to me most important. We're taught that there's a law in nature that whenever there's a longing amongst people, over time, as that longing intensifies, eventually a child will be produced that would answer the desire and the longing of that people. He's unique, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in that he comes in the fullness of time out of the longing of Black people who suffered slavery, out of the longing of the people in the Caribbean that were colonized and enslaved, out of the longing of the native Aboriginal people of the Western Hemisphere that lost so much. And he has the right heart that his words are not local, they're not regional, they're not racial, they're universal, because his love is such that it freely reaches and feels all who are lacking. And there is no other like him. He is the one. We need not look for another.
We now hear closing thoughts from our dear brother, Imam Abdul. Salaam.
All praise is due to Allah. Thank you once again for having me. And I would just close with this. When we saw the video and saw the collage of pictures that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taken with these beautiful artists from the hip hop community as well as in the acting community, we see nothing but love in their faces to be with him.
Come on.
Because he is the personification of love, the embodiment of love.
Mm-hmm.
But all of us say, now I'm quoting my teacher and our teacher, we love you, Minister Farrakhan. We love you. We love you, brother minister. Yeah, I know. But you don't love my way.
Listen.
Come on.
So if we want to learn anything from this conversation as it relates to the artist in the community of hip hop and what Minister Farrakhan has done and is doing with them, let us as students and followers not just say we love him, but let's love him enough to follow his way, because he's a winner. And if you want to win the hearts and minds of people, not to play with them, but to attract them to the light and the majesty of Allah, who visited us and raised up the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And through that man, Elijah Muhammad, we've been given the greatest gift that we could ever ask for at any time or any place. And that's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the star in our midst. Thank you for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Beautiful. And lastly, to finish our evening, ladies and gentlemen, we'll hear from Houston, Texas, our big brother, student minister, Abdul Haleem.
Once again, thank you, beloved, for allowing us to come across these sacred airwaves to reach the ears and the eyes of our people, and hopefully their minds and their hearts. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at dinner when we were in Detroit after Savior's Day said, "Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God." And he said, and I say, in everything. Why is Minister Farrakhan qualified? Because he sees God in everything.
Come on.
I say to you, beloved brothers and sisters, the reason why this is called the final call is because the scripture says that in Genesis, it says that after that 400 years, God says, I will come and judge that nation. We've been here since 1555. 1955 is the 400 years. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, when asked the question in his interview, he said, after me comes God. What is God? Not only who is God in the person of Master Farrakhan, but what is he? He is force and power.
Listen.
And so, brothers and sisters, what you need to understand is that Minister Farrakhan is the voice of God in our midst. And you should know that when he speaks, the very forces of nature respond. Brothers and sisters, I'll close with this last story. We were at a laborers meeting July 7th, 2017. And Minister Farrakhan was presented before that a contract to have a family conference. And they were about to sign the contract, and he looked at the contract. He said, where are y'all planning to have this? They said, Houston, Texas, Brother Minister, we got it all laid out. He said, oh, no, brother, I'm not coming back to Texas. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me, don't come back to Texas. I'm not going back to Texas, brother. And he looked at me and he said, my brother down there, he can handle it. I'm looking like a deer in the headlights. Like, oh, wow. So think about fast forward 2017. They had it in Atlanta, Georgia. The very weekend that it was held in Atlanta, Georgia, Hurricane Harvey hit the Gulf Coast of Texas. 2 trillion gallons of water, and that hurricane made landfall 3 times.
Wow.
Brothers and sisters, you need to understand that somebody in Texas was thinking crazy and pushing the minister around in his mind, and God answered. Wow. I'm telling you right now, you need to look at Minister Farrakhan 2 ways in our close. As Jonah, and he's speaking to those in power, they need to take off their royal robes, put on sackcloth, and put their faces in the ashes and repent if they want America to survive.
Listen.
If not, then he goes into the mode of Nahum, who came later after Jonah and warned Nineveh, and Nineveh was ultimately destroyed. Come out of her, my people, and be not partakers in her sins and her plagues, because her sins have reached heaven. And now God himself is intervening through the voice and the mind of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Brothers and sisters, let us heed the call and come on and understand that a white man's heaven is a black man's hell. We need to get out of hell and get, as Kool and the Gang popularized in the song, and it's in our lessons, to sit ourselves in heaven at once. Assalamu alaikum.
Brothers and sisters, I've got nothing else. We are officially now at our destination and we are at the gate. I'd like to thank you all for traveling Rockwell Airwaves. I'd like to invite you back here to fly with us anytime. If you enjoyed this kind of programming, if you enjoy this kind of topic, if you enjoy the word meeting the music meeting the mission, hit that subscribe button. Help us out. When you do hit the subscribe button, make sure you turn on the notifications and share this program, because this has now been 2 hours of power that are worthy of study, and study. Brother ministers, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Dave, anything from you?
Thank you, brother.
All I can say is I'm grateful. Thank you.
Be back, right? Oh, I forgot. I almost forgot. As I close, let me stop the music. We want to do, and I need everybody to hear me on this before you go. Don't leave yet, everybody. We want to do a Symphony Part 3 for sisters only. I want you to put in the comment section what sisters you think should be on the panel. Symphony Part 3, sisters. Who is going to be? We'll see y'all right here next week on the Rockwell Radio Show. We are out of here.
Now, if you got past all of that, you might as well keep on rocking with us. So come on, everybody, let's go. Radio show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. Come on, Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. Everybody, Rockwell Radio Show. That means you too, Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show. Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. Come on now, y'all. Yeah. It's a dope episode, man. Come on, man. Top tripping.